Hello, welcome to my channel. Devin Rex for Art here. Today we're making another tag for Halloween. This is going to be the last of my Halloween for this year. Here I'm using a pumpkin I made out of masking tape. I do have a video about that. I will link it below. But you don't have to use this type of stamp. I'm going to show in a moment how you can do other stamps. So I'm using my 5x7 plate. I think it's a fun size for a tag, and here I'm using a stencil from PM Artist Studios to just create a bit of texture at the top here. And then I'm wiping down my stamp so I can use it again, making sure the crevices are clean. Just a quick side note, instead of using the masking tape to make a pumpkin like I used, you could make your own stamp with foam. You could take some craft foam and just draw a pumpkin, and that would give you pumpkin shaped. You could use felt pumpkins from the dollar store. I find it usually works better after it has a few layers of paint, so I might demo that in a moment. You can use craft foam that you cut out into a pumpkin shape. You can cut, this is die cuts, but you could hand cut a pumpkin shape using textured fun foam, and that would give you another view. This one I put 2 layers onto cardboard, and I just use a little masking tape to make a little handle. So I'll just show you, for example, with this one. I forgot to mention you can also use carving rubber to carve your own stamp. I have videos about stamp carving I can link below. So here I'm just using a brayer to add some paint to that felt shape, just so that it leaves a better impression, and make sure it's dry before you use it. And here I just put some blobby black paint down on my Gelli Plate just to show you how you can use that to make an impression. And here we're back to our original pumpkin that I created with the masking tape. And I'm going to fill the pumpkin in using Pan Pastels. You want to make sure your paint is fully dry before you do this. You don't want to mess up your soft tool. So I'm adding the lighter colors first, because what you put down first is what's going to show the most on your print, because remember, you always have to think in reverse when you're jelly printing. So here I'm just adding some colors, and I do this on the second one I did as well, which I'll show in a picture-in-picture a little bit later. So here I'm just adding the pumpkin colors, making it nice and bright, and then we're going to add a little bit of green to the stem and the vines. And the Pan Pastel, I've used it before. It's really nice using on the Gelli Plate because you don't have to wait for it to dry. It's a dry medium. It's not very dusty. It's easy to use. It's expensive, but it's very worth it. Now I'm adding some alcohol inks to create just a random background. So I put a bit of ink on there, and then I just braid around a little bit. You have to be careful because when you brayer it, it could lift up some of the black paint. So I just very lightly brayer it, and not very long. So I got a base of the alcohol inks, and then I just add a little bit more, and it will move when you add more to it. So you can see I'm going to add a little bit more to the top. I just want to create more variety. So this is a lighter pink color. So I'm just using a variety of like purples, pinks, and greens here. And I'll do this on that second tag as well, that you'll see a little bit later. And it spilled a little bit over onto the pumpkin, but that's okay. It just adds to the distressed look of this. So I'm picking this up with a metallic white just so that the colors really show. Adding my big Dina Wakley tag. I don't remember the dimensions of this, but it's a really nice paper. And I let that sit for a while. Oh, the other thing is you have to make sure the alcohol ink is fully dry before you try to lift it up with paint. So I did wait some time. Here again, I waited some time, and now I'm pulling it up. And there's the base of the tag that we're going to add some things to. I'm going to cut the bottom off to match it. So up on the left now you can see the second tag. I did the exact same process, just with a different pattern. I'm adding a bit of paint pens to the vines just to define them a little bit more. So I'm looking back at the main image here. Just bringing out some of the details that were lost. And here's an Intense pencil. This is purple, just to fill in the gaps that were around the pumpkin. Just spreading that with a brush with a bit of water on it. Again, Intense pencils, once you dissolve them and spread them, apparently they're permanent. Some would argue with that. Up on the left, you can see that finished tag. On this one, I added a bit more red and orange to the top to give it some more variation in the sky part. And back to the main picture, I'm using that green Intense pencil just to bring that green from the vine out to the border. And back with the black Posca paint pen, which is an acrylic pen, I'm just adding a bit of detail. Here I'm filling in the orange with another paint pen. Just playing. Here I'm adding some black craft paint to the edges. A bit more paint pen, just fiddling. Just fiddle till you're happy. Obviously this video is sped up, but I did just take my time and just have fun. This tag is also for an exchange, so I decided to decorate the back using a sprayed painted paper bag that I'd done in a previous video, and I just adhered it to the back of the tag using that Yes paste, which is a great glue, by the way, and I just tear the edges, leave a bit overhanging to give it sort of a distressed look from the front. Punch a hole where the tag hole is, inking the edges with some Villainous Potion Distress ink. I love that color for Halloween. It's a really great purple. Just ripping a bit more, making it a little bit more distressed. If you use water, it helps you rip the paper a bit better with more ragged edges. That's what I was doing with the paintbrush there. And I'm inking the backside. Here I'm adding another PM Artist Studio stencil that I used in my previous video to put some decoration on the back of the tag, just with some black craft paint and one of those brushes. If you use paint on these brushes, you have to keep it wet and wash it right away, otherwise it hardens. Ask me how I know. All right, so we got the back pretty much done. I'm using this baby wipe that had some inks on it. I used it when I sprayed, I can't remember which time, but it was a lovely color. So I kept the baby wipes once they dried, and here I'm using it as my little tie, my little tassel for this tag. I just love those colors. And I want to add a moon and a bat to this. So I used some stained papers that was just in my stash. I don't really remember what I stained it with. And this cute little wooden shaped bat from the dollar store, I just paint with some orange craft paint. This is just a matte paint. And then while that's drying, I'm going to glue down my moon with some Aleene's tacky glue and a bit of glue stick to flatten that out. Here now the bat is dry, so I'm using some black craft paint with a dry brush just to hit the edges and distress that edge a bit of the bat so it's more Halloween-y, less cutesy, I guess. Still cute, but a little less cutesy. And then I'm using some Orange Flash Folk Art Color Shift paint to add a little bit of a shimmer. It has like it's orange, but it has a purple shine to it, which I thought went really well with this tag. And again, I'm just dry brushing it on. I'm not covering the bat completely. I do want a bit of the matte area to show. And I'm going to let that dry. And while it's drying, I just use an Intense pencil black to shade around the moon. Give it a bit more dimension. And again, I'm just using a bit of water on my brush. Not a lot of water, just a little bit. And using some white now, I'm going to make some wispy clouds before I glue down that bat. And this is Dee Dee Willingham technique, where you take a baby wipe, it's a wet baby wipe, and you use white craft paint, you put it in you dab it into the white craft paint, and then you smush it on your hand. I was a bit out of frame there, but you smush it into the baby wipe using the back of your hand, and it gives a nice light wispy wispiness to it. And then here I'm dry brushing a bit more white because I wanted a few areas just to be a bit boulder. And just making it whoosh around that pumpkin. Now at first I will add a little text, some words to the bottom, but then I decide that it doesn't need words, so I take it off. So you will see me, you'll see that there's some words down there, but then I take it off. Here I'm using the Yes paste to glue down that bat to the tag. It's all dry now. Here's my final tag, and I'm going to get that in the mail for my exchange. And I had lots of fun making this tag. October just really got away from me. It was very busy, so I didn't have time to do a Halloween journal. I'll link a couple of my Halloween journals from last year below if you want to check those out. They were lots of fun, so hopefully next year I'll get back to it and make another Halloween journal. But I think that's it for this year for Halloween, unless I surprise myself. So have a great day, have fun, and thanks for watching.